Hey everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Snapchat. I'm joined today by none other than Cozy Snap. Cozy, how was it like to get completely roasted by Ben Brode
Oh
on
my
his game show?
gosh, man. Mr. Positivity came at me quick. When he said save it for your YouTube channel, Cozy, like I'm pretty sure that was improv and I like spit out my drink. I didn't have a drink, but it was super comical to see the behind the scenes too, man. Like such a production nerd, so seeing that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, I got roasted. I've been seeing some hashtags justice for Cozy, man. I got killed.
Now, Cozy, we got a lot to talk about today. It is an absolutely action-packed episode of the Snapchat. We just finished having a conversation on your channel about some heavy-hitting topics. Why don't you break us down with what we just discussed on your side?
Yeah, so we talked about Loki. Pretty much the entire thing was Loki centered. We talked about the card, how he's going to be, is he worth unlocking? We also talked about the September new cards coming out, their impact, and really going into detail about them. Super fun. I think we talked about a lot of things we weren't thinking of at first, and it was just great to recap that. And then we talked about new cards on the rise kind of throughout the entire episode, and we focused on it more at the end there, bud. And there's some big risers this month in September.
It is, and I want to just highlight something you mentioned. It's one of the things I love about the Snapchat is like we don't share our notes with each other because we like to catch each other by surprise often. And it's so fun to me to have conversations on the Snapchat where like on the fly and in that moment you are like re-inspiring deck ideas in my head. And I think you did that. I think I did that for you today. I think it was a really fascinating discussion about honestly what I think is going to be one of the best seasons ever in Marvel Snap. But we got a lot to talk about today. So let's get started with Big in Japan, our final rankings. Now, we like to do this at the end of each season because, well, we go into each season trying to predict the impact of individual season pass cards, just like we did for the Loki season. And now we're back to discuss the Destroy season, Dakin, X-23, Lady Deathstrike, and of course, the Silver Samurai. So we had our original takes on them, but now we've had a chance to actually play with the cards and experiment with them. So Cozy, I'm gonna let you start us off here. First of all, how do you think these cards were in general? But most importantly, what was your lowest rated card at number 4?
Ooh, I didn't know we were going from 4 to 1. I like it. Yeah, I was going to give a 1 through 5 star rating on them too. I feel like I think that's
We
what
can
I
do
did.
it that way too.
I was going into the season that way, and it's cool to kind of like reflect back and see. But starting with Dawkin, the season pass card, or just in general the season as a whole, I think we mainly got it. I feel like Dawkin was the only one that was like a big whiff in the sense of like thinking he was going to be absolutely in every Destroy deck, whereas we forgot the core concept of how tight Destroy really is. Now, I will say, if you don't have like X-23, he can still kind of fit into that mold. He's a much better Sabretooth. I still think he's a good card. But that was the one that felt, eh. Lady Deathstrike, we know that they, did the Forge buff to make her better. Then they made her better. So she's she's what we thought she would be now. Silver Samurai, I think we thought he would be slept on. We'll talk more about him. Let's start with Dawkin. 1 through 5 stars, Alex. What would you give him now that you've had the full month?
I'd be willing to give him like I'd go to 4. I'm willing to give him 4. Probably 3.5 is where I'd be most comfortable, but he's good. I think he's good. He makes it into many lists. I think he's a natural fit in discard. I think he's a natural fit in Destroy, although the Destroy decks feel like he's cuttable because of just how tight those decks can be with what you want to accomplish, but he's still good in them. There's no doubt about it, right? I think he's good. I think he was a good season pass card.
Yeah, I largely agree the same. I think it's interesting because these season pass cards typically, they're like must includes into the deck or they hyper enhance. Like Silver Surfer, Hit Monkey at the time of release, Kitty Pryde, like these huge enhancing cards. He just feels like a good synergistic play that just works well. 3/8 ends up being his best home. Just having him as a 3/8 is awesome. Having that 8 power, not worrying about the Shang-Chi. If you get a Shuri's Lab, you get a little bit more spice added into it. I gave him a 3.75 4-star. That was kind of where I gave him the same amount, and so I would agree. And I still play him a lot. I actually play him in most of those lists that you just mentioned. And his best days, I've said this about a couple, that his best days are ahead, but he's going to be a card that kind of can keep being built upon,
There'll always be a place for Dawkin in a lot of decks, and anytime you're looking to add some additional discard synergy or destroy synergy, like he's a natural fit there. And we can't scoff at a 3/8. Like, yeah, you got to work for it a little bit, but it really, in discard, like, you don't even work that hard for it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it kind of just works. So I do like where Dawkin is as a whole. And it's also worth noting, he didn't break the meta either. Like, he didn't like Silver Surfer or Zabu, these cards were like soul crushing if you didn't have them. Like if you didn't get those cards, like free to play felt horrible. And I don't think Dakin did that. So I think it was a nice little change of pace for free to play.
And how it should be. It's how it should be. The Ghost Spider, Phoenix Force was a bit of a miss, but the Ghost Spider, this Dakin, and how I think Loki's going to be, where he is fun. He works. He's not you didn't buy him, so you're going to suck this season, right? Like, no, I think it was just a natural good card that worked in an archetype that people just love to play, right? Now, after him was the release of Lady Deathstrike. So naturally, we can move on to her. She's a 5/4 now, but what are your thoughts on LDS?
You know what? I had high hopes for LDS. Like, it was a card that, like, I thought on paper could have been really good. I tried her in, like, a interesting kind of control Thanos list. I tried her in Cerebro 3. Cerebro 4 is just awful. So you know what I mean? So it's like, so anyways, so the buff actually was a nerf from a Cerebro standpoint. I actually did enjoy the Cerebro 3 list with her. I thought that was the most natural fit for her, but I think this is probably the weakest of the bunch. This has to be the weakest of the bunch for me. Like, this is like maybe reaching for 2 stars in my opinion. Even with the buffs, like, I see the potential, especially with Ravonna coming out now, because Ravonna is going to try and sneak out a lot of these cheaper cards. So maybe Lady Deathstrike will, dare we say, her best days are still ahead of her. But like with Ravonna, I think Lady Deathstrike could be a natural counterplay.
Yeah, I gave her a 2.5, 3. I give her a 2 now because of the meta, but I look at it just like any other card, whereas like you got to see how things are going to play out. And to your point, you just said the Ravonna and or just like future metas. We never will have a Dracula, Iron Man kind of problem again. Like, this is just a good answer to those cards. 7 power with Forge is, dude, that's a lot of cards under anything under 6 power, man. You know, I think she will have a time and place there. This current time, like, my 2099 is terrible because you have to play him and then you have to also have the card to move him right after that. Feels awkward. I don't like it. Her, it just makes a bit more sense. You can do the Forge and get big profit, or you can just play her and now everything below 3 is going to die. And so I think it does make a bit of sense. Patriot, you could get rid of these kind of annoying cards. However, it's just not her time yet. I would agree there. And she's about where I thought she would land. Next up, we do have the most anticipated of the month. And we could both easily say the best of the month. But I want to challenge you because you did not like her upon release. So kind of, you weren't crazy about her. I remember people commenting like, I can't wait to see Cozy and Alex battle it out. X23, give me the star rating and your thoughts here.
So my initial impressions were that, like, it just didn't seem to work the way I wanted it to. Like, on paper, I had these crazy turn 5 and 6 combos, and it just didn't actually live up to that because it's like, well, I don't want to put Chavez in a deck like this so I can draw X23 earlier. So it was an unreliable combo piece. And then I kind of realized something. I was like, I think I'm playing the card wrong. Like, why am I forcing this card to be something that it's not? Why don't I allow it to just be a working cog in a greater destroy machine and allow it to just accelerate what I want to do anyways? So once I kind of understood that, and like LDS is the same, like stop using it as like I'm going to Zola, I'm going to do all this stuff. Like if you just use it as a tech card, then it makes more sense. X23, it took that little bit of like, wait a minute, that eureka moment of just do what this card's meant to do. And it goes from a 2.5, 3 star to a 4 star because like your expectations for what this card should be doing is more in line with what the card is meant to be doing in the first place, right? I think my expectations were too high on its combo potential. And once I kind of reeled that in a little bit, I started to understand the card better and why it was a better fit in Destroy.
Okay, first of all, I'd give it a 4.5 stars. I think X23 fits into Destroy so beautifully. It's ridiculous. It's such a good card. I mean, the thing, how it just gets things rolling, it's a great card. You're never going to regret it. If you play Destroy, get the card. Done. However, you touched on something that I think could be the theme of the season. You thought it was Destroy. No, it's Greed. And that's not from Second Dinner. People might want me to say. It's more of Dawkin, Silver Samurai, X23, and Lady Deathstrike. They all have one thing in common. You want to do something super crazy with all of them. Silver Samurai, you want to do the Ghost Rider. Crazy. You get value and the value. Or LDS, crazy combo, X23, crazy combo, Dawkin, 100 billion power. More power, the better. But if you just play all of these for what they're worth, they're just good cards. They're good cards, right? You have you Dawkin at 8 power. You got the X23 giving you a nice little ramp to destroy more cards more often, and you have a card that you can destroy and regenerate. Silver Samurai, we're going to jump to in a second. You're you just hurt their hand. You just make their hand worse, right? And then you can maybe profit off that a little bit in the next 23. So I thought that was a very good point. And altogether, I think this was the winner. This is the one that, you know, it didn't break the meta, but Destroy is definitely a top deck in Snap now. No question.
Yeah, the thing for me that made the most sense is like, oh yeah, this card just makes death way easier to get to 0. Way easier. Like, it's once you realize that like this is just a good Destroy card, not a good combo piece, it just completely lights up what it's capable of doing in the archetype. So I think it's important that we're critical about the cards as well. But at the same time, I think that it is a very, very strong card for Destroy, and it makes the decks better. It makes the archetypes better, and that's the bottom line.
I'm glad you said that, because I think there's a misconception. Like Silver Samurai, we're gonna get to him. It was the first time I didn't do a video the day after he came out, and I played with him almost through the entire night. I lost so much sleep trying to make that deck appear in the morning that just gets people crazy. And it took me longer than that. And I haven't even released it yet because there's Doctor Doom and there's been a lot of personal things going on in my life. But it can be so hard to try to make a deck work overnight, or a card work overnight, or figure out the situations overnight, or expect it to be the most sexy thing in 10 hours of play. And I see this on Twitter plenty and other social medias. It was just in general, just like bad takes on cards, because it's like, you can't judge it. You can give it early impressions. I think that's good to know. But it just takes time for these things to evolve and to really get themselves going. Jean Grey's an excellent point, man. I'm starting to see some of the better players talk about Jean Grey now. Obviously, she was good, but she didn't have that sex appeal. Not talking about her looks or play right away. Didn't jump off the page. And I think we expect some of these cards to do that, right? Mobius isn't going to be like, whoa! It's just, he's just good. He's a good card to play out there. And so, more or less, trying to get, you know, these cards to work overnight, we're not in the business of, as people may think, just like hyping up everything. It's important to be critical and honest. If a card sucks, get it out there. And what I do like about it is it wasn't working for you that night. So your message was like, I would hold off. And then I know you've corrected that since then. You're like, okay, it's actually a pretty good card. But you wanted to make sure, which is a good thing to do.
Yeah, I think that, like, well, for us, like, I think we have a responsibility to the community to try to be as accurate with our statements as possible, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm definitely trying to move away from a lot of that sensational YouTube style stuff, right? I think it's like, it's good to have a more balanced approach to evaluating the cards. I think we both do a very good job of that, to be honest with you. I think that ultimately X23 is going to be the top dog of this class of this month, and it's only going to get better. Every discard card, destroy card. Yeah, it works in discard too, by the way, now that I just said that.
Yeah.
But every destroy card that comes in the future, it's going to be calculated with, well, what if we get X23 out there early? What's it do then, right? So I think it's in a good spot, and I think it's a good time to transition into Silver Samurai. Like, I'll be honest with you, Cozy, this was one of the ones I was like, I think we're sleeping on this one. This is going to be an interesting one, and it kind of went...
I think we have different views on it. I think I like it probably more than you do, but also it was... not like, here's the sleep. You know what? Hey, fantasy football, let's bring it up. There's sleepers for a reason. There's sleepers because they are cards that could be good that no one's looking at, and sometimes they just suck. Now, Silver Samurai I don't think just sucks, but maybe there was a reason it wasn't like being freaked out about. I genuinely think this card's just awesome for value. Just, its disruption's great. You play him down. Sometimes it sucks, but you know what it's going to get rid of, so there's no surprise factor on your end. I think it's just so much better disruption, and the curve out of disruption can eliminate Black Bolt in decks or give you more dependable plays into stature. He's a hyper boost to stature. I won in Infinity Conquest. People are waiting on the guide. It's going to get out there with a discard focused Silver Samurai deck. He's good. He's not like this new cog MODOK in the machine thing, though, I would agree.
Yeah, like MODOK had this universal appeal for discard, where Samurai is way more niche, because Samurai also like has counter synergies to some degree with like Dracula and Morbius, and like the way you have to play around his effect, I think, is really important. Like, I moved right away from Samurai being, oh, Ghost Rider this, Ghost Rider. I'm like, you know, like, Ghost Rider doesn't generate enough value. Like, it's so much extra work and combo centric stuff. Like, move away from that. And you are 100% right. The value that I see in Silver Samurai comes from that discard effect. It comes from impacting their hand, reducing their ability to play more cards. Like, hand impact is a huge effect in Marvel Snap, huge, and it has to be mitigated because, like, if you're able to just mill their hand out with like Moon Knight, Silver Samurai, and they're just like, well, I guess I top deck Chavez on turn 6. Like, that feels horrible for the player. You don't want that to happen to you either. So, I like the way the card is designed. And I think that, I feel like we say this all the time, but as more cards come out and more effects are going to be more unique to hit with Silver Samurai, suddenly the Ghost Rider play starts to make more sense. Or now we're going to be start countering like, oh, Ravona's becoming more popular. They're stacking their hands with Zola and Iron Man and all this stuff. Now suddenly Silver Samurai makes more sense.
Yep.
It's hard to predict how a card like this can impact the meta until we're in it.
And just moving away from metas, like X-23, Wolverines, Swarms, this stuff right now is like, it feels bad to hit those when the opponent has them. That was the synergy designed with them, so other people have them. As we move away from that, it's going to happen less and less. And just the key thing to remember, man, he will be in every discard list coming up eventually because he's a targeted discard card that will not lose its value. And Hela and Reliable Discard get better and better the more of these that come out. And there's so few and far between. It's a powerful effect, but it's few and far between. But I think that's the best thing going for him, probably overall. I give Silver Samurai, I gave him a 3.5, 3.75, a little less than Dawkin. Is kind of what I gave him overall. But I like him. I think the card's fun.
I lean towards like 3, like just reaching for 3 on that side, right? 2.75, 3 range.
I thought you were going to be way less than that. So I'm actually pleasantly surprised that you gave him that good of a rating. Let's move on to new player tips, though, man. Overall, I think big in Japan. Fun season. Very hyped up season. Maybe didn't live up all the way to the hype. But I think that was the consensus. I'm pretty sure, like, the whole time we were just like, get X-23. I know in July, get X-23, get X-23. And then just get all the Loki cards. We've been preaching that for a while. And we kind of landed on that ultimately, right? Overall. Let's talk about new player tips, though. Alex, we got a lot of new players coming to the game. What are some of the best tips that you have for them?
It's a great question because I know that Marvel Snap seems like it's simple up front. But once you start considering the economy, the best way to kind of build your collection, there are some tips that we think, listen, we've been playing so much Marvel Snap over the last year. It's crazy. For those that may not realize, Cozy and I have been playing since the early beta. We've played way too much Marvel Snap. So I'm going to hit you with a tip right off the bat here. And it's pretty obvious for most players, but if you're new, it's a total trap. Cozy, what do you think about the fast upgrade option in the shop?
Whoa, avoid. Pass.
It's the worst.
Get out of there.
I can't believe it's still there. It is one of the biggest new player traps in the game. Basically, you're paying for boosters. Cozy, do you have a problem collecting boosters?
Never, dude. And if I do, they already got rid of that. If you really want to, get your Wolverine up and you need to get a couple, you can do it in the menu here. But either way, when you're starting out, you just have no need. Just don't do it. There's no need. No, boosters are free. You get it by playing.
Credits are so damn valuable. And like if you're looking to upgrade a card, right? Don't use that. Okay, just so you guys know, the way that you actually get boosters is based on a weighting each individual card gets. Any card that can be upgraded, right? Like you're holding more boosters and you're just not upgrading them, they get a reduced reliance on getting additional boosters. So let's say you want to get that Wolverine up. You just got to make sure you keep upgrading that Wolverine so that there's no boosters left over and like you're waiting for more to get him upgraded, and he'll get a higher weighting at the end of a game when you are actually collecting your boosters. Do not waste your money on the fast upgrade option. It's like one of the biggest traps in Marvel Snap. You're going to have so many boosters you won't know what to do with them, but you'll never have enough credits.
Yeah, and the next step I would go into that, and this is just good resourceful stuff, is missions. Now, with missions, the thing to do about them is, especially starting out, they force you to play with different things and different play styles. And I think that's really good, right? You're getting your resources. The first thing you should be doing, have some fun with it, but, the credits and stuff that you get from those are just not to be overlooked. You get a massive amount of stuff from them. So when you need to play 2-cost cards and win with this and X, just make a deck that kind of fits your play style and then target that. It'll maybe not be the exact discard deck that you want to play, or maybe you're just wrecking with Chads at the zoo deck style stuff, but they need you to play 6-cost cards. Like, experiment. I definitely make sure you take advantage of the missions. I feel repeating saying that, but it's so important. It's like, I do that still, and I've been playing a year,
I love that point because it's one of my next tips, and it's don't worry about the meta, okay? Now, both Cozy and I do very meta-centric guides. We do a lot of stuff based on top-tier decks and stuff along those lines. And you'll see Series 5 cards because we're trying to craft the best decks, right? That's what our goal is. But if you're relatively new to the game, it's like a folly to try and design those decks right off the bat. Like you just can't. It's the way the collection system works. So instead of getting frustrated that you can't build, this month's or this week's most broken deck that everyone's talking about, take that time to actually just craft and build your deck building experience. Build on your expertise of crafting new decks with the cards that you unlock in the collection track. Now, Cozy, tell me, if you could, go back in time. What was that feeling like when you were playing early Marvel Snap and you're unlocking new cards nearly constantly, getting that Magneto for the first time, pulling that Wong out of a collector's reserve? Do you remember that feeling, how amazing it was?
Wong and Mystique came last. It was a dark feeling. But yes, I missed that feeling almost. Because of it, it was like I was always trying something different, which is there's two styles of play. Get really good with one deck or get excited and try to fit the card that you just got into the deck that you have. It's fun, man. It's truly the amount of cards you get. I'm pretty sure it's like, you get like the 50% of the cards unlocked in the game in the first like little bit. Then it's like 40, 30. Then like you get 3 to 4 cards a month once you're all the way in. So enjoy that renaissance of what the beginning of the game is. It's so fun.
And something worth noting as well is some of the absolute best cards in Marvel Snap are the ones you get right away. Like Iron Man, you literally start with. Chavez, you unlock in like your first whatever kind of round of unlocks and stuff like that. These are absolutely incredible cards. Some of the foundations of what Marvel Snap is, even today in the most competitive metas, begin in those Pool 1, in the Series 1, in those starter cards, okay? Yeah, you're going to have some garbage like Quicksilver and stuff like that. But there's seriously a ton of bangers. Do not sleep on the effectiveness of those cards at a competitive level.
And a lot of my advice is going to come via cards, and we're going to talk about that in the Pool 3 coming up. But one of the biggest ones I've learned, the thing that transitioned me from being like a person that played casually to being good at the game, or at least I think I am at times, I'm pretty bad, but is remembering how you lose. Now, snapping. We can talk about that a million times, and learning how to snap and when to snap is the most essential thing you can learn, period. That's what it is. But remembering how you lose is something so important early on, right? Because people are going to be playing and adjusting as you play. So you're going to be playing people in the same field as you, Pool 1, then Pool 2, and then it gets hard at Pool 3. But let's say you lost to that Devil Dinosaur played on the end of the game. Maybe they played a couple Sentinels, or they got an Arnim Zola into Devil Dinosaur, and you never seen that before. You're like, what the hell just happened to me? It's important to remember how you lose so that you know, and you kind of put it in the database. You'd be surprised how much you remembered what you lose by, and you're starting to see similar. You don't have to memorize every deck in the world, but just remember a couple things of like, wait a second, that guy just played a Cosmo, and he was going before me on turn 6. I was going to play Odin, I lost. Just expect that could happen. Start looking at the glowing name a little bit more and paying attention to these things. That is like the biggest thing that I took away and learned, and it built on me becoming like a better player.
It's absolutely huge. It's some of the best advice I've ever heard because learning to identify specific play patterns that can then allow you to be predictive in what your opponent's going to do is huge. That experience profile is massive. In fact, chess players, world-class chess players, right? They're not necessarily playing reactive to a board state. They see a board state and they know what the next play pattern is, and that's how they play their game, right? So as a Marvel Snap player, if you see certain things, like if they play Shuri, Cozy and I are thinking, well, it's going to be Red Skull or Vision. It's going to be like we're able to plan ahead. We know what their turns look like. And if you're a new player, that's hard, right? You don't even know what half these cards do all the time, right? So Start building that experience profile, right? And really learning from those losses help you to identify how you can, counteract those losses or be predictive in the future, even if it's a retreat, even if it's, I know what they're going to do next and I can't beat it.
Yep.
That's when you walk away, right? So I think there's a lot of value in learning that, Cozy. Absolutely fantastic point. I love that. Getting into the monetary side, we've talked about a couple things with regards to like missions and things along those lines, but I just want to talk about the season pass. If you're going to spend money in Marvel Snap, the Season Pass probably represents one of the best value propositions in the game. We've talked about in the past, it could be better, but at the end of the day, for what you're paying, you do get a lot in credits. You do get a lot in, obviously, the Season Pass card itself, which if you kind of extrapolate the token value of like unlocking a Series 5 card or whatever it might be is very expensive. So the $9 or whatever it is in your localized currency, in terms of money, is generally well spent on the Season Pass.
Yeah, if you're listening to a YouTube video about the game and you're playing more than a couple hours a day, or like at times it's more than a casual, you pick it up. Like, is it worth $10 to you a month? That's just kind of what you have to ask. And then you're not like subscribed to it, so you don't have to do it, right? But is the entertainment value worth that? You know, is skipping to McDonald's, whatever it is. I don't know. Like, that's up for you to decide. But for me, if I'm playing something even remotely more than an hour or whatever, and I'm watching YouTube videos and I care about the game and all this stuff, like, it makes sense. Like, it is just a good value at that point, right? Don't get sucked into always having to buy it, but it is a good value at that. And so that is a good overall point. Alex, I think the last thing I have with this, and I'm glad that you brought that up, is remember that Snap is a game of momentum too. I think it's important to know that. I could go into the specifics of location advantages and knowing this and knowing that, but at the end of the day, like, momentum matters. It's like football. Momentum matters, and momentum is going to get you the win a lot of the times. If you have a couple cards out early and you have your key combos, or if you have locations that look really good to you and you know your opponent's not going to get that same advantage, like a double reveal location, that's when you're snapping. That's when you know you're going to win and you want your confidence to go up. And so learning not only how you lost, but also learning when you're gaining this momentum, super important.
Yeah, it's a great point, right? And I think it's easy to forget that element of Marvel Snap, the momentum element. And usually you want to snap when you're gaining that momentum, when you've established that lead that maybe your opponent has not recognized, right? That's usually when you want to snap. When you're ahead, when your opponent doesn't realize you're ahead. And when you're able to identify the momentum, you're able to make those decisions very confidently. The last thing I'll say, the last point, and this is one that just has to be said. What you want to do is you want to collect more cards, okay? Continuously use your credits, continuously upgrade your cards, continuously push your collection level to the next level. You want to keep pushing it, you want to keep pushing it. And one of the ways you can do that is just upgrade all your common cards to uncommon. It's actually half the cost per collection level to take a gray bordered card to a uncommon than it is to do any other upgrade at all. So when I was starting, I remember even making a deck. Cozy, did you do this when you made a deck of all just uncommon cards just to collect the boosters to rank them up, right? Even if you lost games, it didn't matter, right? Build your collection. Do not save credits, okay? You want to just keep building your collection, collect more cards. Don't worry about the ranks and all that stuff. Play the game, build your collection. You're going to have the most fun that way.
Absolutely, buddy. Shall we talk about cards? Super important. I think there's cards that we'll gear now towards probably the once you've entered the kind of middle ground of Marvel Snap, you enter Pool 3. There are cards in Pool 3. This is how I ranked them. It says top 10. When we go and look at our subjects here, I'll pull them up. You see these cards or you unlock these cards, you just entered a whole new world, baby, of Marvel Snap. And this is where it can get difficult if you don't have them. But it's important to identify, you know, okay, you get Crossbones. Cool, keep playing. Okay, you get, Venom. Keep playing. Wait a second. Hold on. What does that Venom do? Whatever, right? Let's talk about our top 10 cards in Marvel Snap. Where the Pool 3 players are entering Pool 3 or just impactful-wise. Certainly not like independent scale is what I was going, but also just their weight altogether, bud. And at number 10, what do you want to kick us off with, Alex? I'm interested to hear yours.
At number 10, I like Lockjaw, because I think that it opens up a whole new archetype. It's a fun card to play with, and naturally, like Wasp and other Pool 3 cards do make it better, but you still have access to Nightcrawlers, you still have access to Iceman that does the job if you want to start cycling things. I just like the idea of Lockjaw opening up a whole new archetype for players, and then if you unlock Lady Jane Foster, then you've got yourself an absolute banger deck, because a lot of the cards that you can just slot right in, like Hulks and stuff like that, you got a lot of big pieces right off the bat, right? Yeah. So I do like Lockjaw at number 10 for Pool 3 cards for relatively new players.
It's funny because this whole list, like, they're all good. My 10 are all 10. Like, they're all 1. They're all good. They're just good cards to have because they do something different. The way I was trying to think about this is if you get this card by itself, it's not that great, but also there's cards that supersede that because they're going to have synergy. So even though this is a better card than this is where I have Brood at number 10, just because Brood is a card that you just need one other card, and they're on my list, that just help boost this thing to the next level. Brood is just good value. Brood gets you into Death's Domain in these hard locations. Just a card that you can celebrate when you get, because it immediately puts you in another tier of some good combo possibilities and or just a good play.
I didn't include Brood, but I like the call, because like Brood really does amplify several of the archetypes and the cards I'm sure we're going to be talking about, because there's some near the top of our list. I think there's a couple cards that really like Brood, so I think it's a good inclusion, Cozy. At number 9, I'm going to go with Venom. simply because Venom is like a destroy defining card. Now, destroy does get better with Death, who's not on my list, and Null, that's not on my list, and not even a pool 3 card. Now that not that I'm saying it out loud, but I think that Venom is so archetype defining that it represents like an absolutely fantastic card. I think that at number 9, Venom is a good slot there. If you unlock Venom early, you got an archetype you can turn to absolutely do damage.
Yeah, it's tough because there's cards like Dracula or discard stuff. I'm like, you need other cogs. Venom is so good. You know, Deadpool.
Venom even needs Soul, kind of.
But here's the thing. This is what I'm talking about, guys, is identify the cards you have. If you even have 2 of these things to start making them work together, that's your deck, baby. Go run it. Run it proud. Hopefully you like it. Yeah, I definitely agree there. Another card that I have, coming in at number 9, let's just talk good stats, good value, is She-Hulk, and I kind of often forget that she is in Pool 3. Discounted, good value. You can plug her into decks. Very simple to understand how she works. Never feels bad to have it on a draw. She-Hulk is just a good card and one that I love for new Pool 3 players.
Number 9, Cozy? This is my Carnage from last week. You're really throwing She-Hulk at number 9?
Yeah, I've just the stuff above it. I love what they do more, but She-Hulk's great. Yeah.
Oh man, okay. Well, this list is getting spicier by the moment. At number 8, this is a card that I think people often forget is Series 3. And again, it's one that, like all these, will benefit from additional cards being unlocked. But I think Shuri needs a call out here. Like, Shuri is such a good card. What it does, like, even for just Vision. Honestly, if you're a new player, you have Vision because that's a Pool 2 card, right? So you have Vision. Shuri is an absolute banger. I mean, there is no card in Marvel Sap that just straight up doubles the next card's power. Like, you got to work hard for docking to do that. But Shuri is just such a natural fit in so many decks. And even, like, the least expensive meta decks in, like, Shuri Sauron, for instance, that has no Series 4 or 5 cards, is just an absolute banger. So I think Shuri needs some love on this list.
I'll talk about her in a bit, but definitely, and for her, to me, it's like, well, that's just gives you a full deck to run off and go. She-Hulk doesn't do that. That's why I have She-Hulk like lower in my eyes. Like, I'm trying to look at the ones that like just give you this, like, when you have these and your opponent doesn't, they're done. Like, they're so screwed. And that Shuri, man, whew, hot. I love it. I've got Mystique next, and Mystique was one that has kind of fallen off. I actually had her, I didn't even say her on the Rise cards, but I think she is on the Rise because she's being left off list. Now I think she's going to be entering back into those lists, but the immediate impact of having either Iron Man or Devil Dinosaur being able to be copied with her is such a good early play. And then obviously cards we're going to talk about in a moment. Don't forget Mystique. She's not in the best top meta decks right now. Don't forget Mystique. Such a good card to get off and rolling. It was my last card I unlocked in Pool 3.
That's so sad. I think it was a late unlock for me as well, and I'll be bringing her up a little later.
I like it.
What to say. Number 7, Cozy, the newly buffed Doctor Doom. He's back, and it comes in at 7 for me. Could have been higher, but right now we're still seeing a lot of Professor X. We're still seeing a lot of Control. I think it's a good spot for him to make a comeback here. So I'm a conservative 7, but this is a kind of card that, like, you know what, Cozy, it could almost be like top 3 for new players. Because, like, what's a deck that you don't want to put Doctor Doom in? You just want to put him everywhere, right? Especially if, like, you're like, Alex, it's my free card of the month. What do I do? Doctor Doom is never a bad choice.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to look at, and it was fun to go back. Like, you have to remember these new players that they're going up against don't have these cards either. Like, Pro X, yes, but they don't have Daredevil. They don't have Jeff. So they're not playing Pro X. Maybe not as much, right? That's how I viewed it, at least. And it was tough because it is, like, you look at these cards, it's hard to put them in a vacuum per se. Doom, we'll get to, I definitely have thoughts on Doom. This is where I have Shuri. But to your point, just the fact that you have Vision that you just can play on Shuri. There's more than that. I can name a lot more. Just big cards, you play them on there. But Vision and having that access, if you had Shuri as one of your first polls, dude, just good night. It's so good. Like, I can't even believe having something like Shuri to your power that early on. The opponent isn't going to have a lot that they can do to match that. And you don't need a lot of reliance on other unlocks to just get that cog, get that craziness working.
Oh, I agree. Absolutely. And you know what? I agree with your plays. I could see Shuri rising higher. Like, it is such a clean card. And you're right. You get unlock Shuri early, you're running, you're jogging, you're sprinting with a smile on your face to infinite because it's such a great combo piece because it's really not that expensive. It's one of the cheapest top tier cards in Marvel Snap. Yep. Moving to number 6, Cozy, This is where I had Mystique for all the reasons why you said. Ravonna coming out. There's a lot of potential synergy. Obviously, it works extremely well with Devil Dinosaur, which you get in Pool 1, carries you through Pool 2. Mystique, as Cozy said, don't sleep on Mystique. Who do you have at 6?
Now, they work in different ways. I put them together because why not? Is Electro and Wave together. So I think they just both give you ramp. And ramp doesn't need anything other than these cards. Having them both makes it a lot more dependable, but immediately, like Electro lets you play a whole different deck. Wave lets you play a whole different deck. And so either of them for me are in this slot.
You're crazy, dude. I literally have Wave at my number 5. So Wave's my next one too. And I actually think that Wave's having a renaissance. Originally, it's crazy because Wave was like top tier for a while. Absolutely top tier with Death Wave, all that kind of stuff. And then the nerfs happened to change. Now, I don't want to say nerfs. It just got changed. And then one of the reasons why I really like Wave is because like it counteracts the Shinon stuff. They try to skip turn 6. You play Wave on turn 6. You just laugh your ass off because now they just can't do anything, right? Or they can still drop their Infinite, but whatever. I digress. But at the end of the day, like Wave is still a really good card. And with Morbius coming out, that Triple M Morbius. Again, I did it again. Triple M. I don't keep calling him Triple M. I like that. Kind of like it reminds me of like wrestling Triple H. Do you remember Triple H?
Yeah, of course. MQ.
Yeah. So I kind of picture that, right? But anyways, I think that Wave's gonna have a major comeback in this upcoming season, especially if the interaction with Triple M is as broken as I think it's going to be.
For sure, man. Going into Pool 3, dude, number 5, I got Magneto. Now, Magneto as a card is one of the best in the game at the moment. But going into Pool 3, you don't have the Darkhawks. You don't have these things that you're going to run into as much. So Magneto's just a good power play that also can counter some of the stuff that you see early and often. And, man, like, dude, if you get Shuri and Magneto, you win. You're going to have just a breeze of a time because you could just have a 24 power card that also disrupts and then just like concentrate on one other lane and you win, right? Magneto obviously better in the sense of Pool 3 cards, but I've got him here as far as new player.
And I got him there at number 4. So literally like a stepping stone here. We go from your Magneto at 5 to my Magneto at 4 for all the reasons you said. I think the thing that can't be slept on with Magneto, especially as a relatively new player to Marvel Snap, is that it's impacting 3 lanes. And that's rare in the game, right? It's what Dr. Doom does, right? Which I'm assuming is coming up for Cozy eventually, unless we're up for a surprise. But Dr. Doom, Magneto, these are strong cards because they impact multiple lanes with your big turn 6 play. I love Magneto, so I agree. For me, it's number 4.
What was your 5 again?
My 5 was Wave.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Going up at number 4, that's Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer, man, you do need some other 3 costs to make it start popping. You need the Juggernaut, you need the Brood, okay? You need some other ones. But the good thing is they're 3 cost. You're going to get a bunch of them. You don't need like one type of card. You just need 3 cost cards. And there's already some really good ones that are in your bucket like Storm, right? And if you don't have them right away, you also just have good Pool 1 and 2 cards. In fact, I'm going to be straight up honest. I didn't even look at this list, but I can just tell you, it's crazy that I know what is Pool 1 and Pool 2 like right off the bat. The fact that a Hulkbuster can just be played down now is kind of fun. But if you look at the cards here, a good chunk of them are going to need to have other Pool 3 unlocks. I think why I like them so much, though, is that A, you can form a deck, and then B, you just have such a wide net to capture a lot of 3-cost cards. But dude, Bishop, Wolfsbane, you got options.
Nova Killmonger is a huge one too because you have those cards, right? And it completely shuts down an entire archetype that you're probably going to still be facing off against, right? If you unlock Silver Surfer early, you're probably still going to see some like Zoo style gameplay and like you just laugh. You just laugh with the deck you have. And Storm's a great call out. I love this pick. In fact, that I can't believe we're doing this again. It's my number 3, so I'm just like one ahead of you on every single pick.
So who's your 4? Who's your 4 then?
My 4 was Magneto, and then we did Wave, Magneto, and Silver Surfer's my 3. So I'm literally just one ahead of you for all the reasons. And literally, Silver Surfer is one of my favorite archetypes in Marvel Snap. It's the one I turn to when I want to play for fun. And the thing I really like about it is exactly what Cozy said. You're going to be unlocking 3 costs all the time. And even if you don't have the Juggernaut, you still have Storm. You could play Jessica Jones. You could Storm Jessica Jones. You're still given the extra 2 power at the end there. I think there's so much to love about Silver Surfer. It's just such a great card. If it's like one of your free unlocks for the month, you swipe that up right away. Silver Surfer is an absolute beauty. Cozy, what's your 3?
There he is. Dr. Doom coming in at number 3. I can't imagine getting this as one of your first cards right now. Like, just like, how do you compete with 5 across just like as this ultimate, like, done kind of deal? You get a good 5-cost card. Maybe you even just make a Devil Dino deck. And then you just have this as your closer. Like, he's just such an impactful card early on. The decks that can go up against it, I just don't think can match it. They need more combos. They need more stuff going forward. And if you just get like a Wong or Absorbing Man or even a Wave, then you can then Odin this Doctor Doom. There's ways to abuse him even more. He just feels like such a good card and would be probably like my number one pick as far as versatility goes for new players in the game.
Without question. And I love the fact that you're talking about, like, you know, if you unlock Electro early or you use Wave to get the Doom Odin combo, Sandman is pool 2, right? So Sandman into to Doctor Doom's fantastic because you're able to attack 3 lanes simultaneously while your opponent can't. And the way I would play that is usually I'd do something like an Ebony Maw with Sandman.
Yep.
So you have like 7 power that they can't really attack effectively, and you still add to it with Doctor Doom. Again, all series 1 and 2 cards, right? So I love the call out on Doctor Doom, and I look at my list, I'm like, yeah, he could have risen, but like to rise past Mystique, Wave in this upcoming meta, it's hard to say, but like I like the call. It's, you know what, I kind of agree. Doom probably should have been higher for me because it's so evergreen, especially with the new buff.
I think the way you were looking at it though is like, oh well, Professor X, but yeah, it's just like no one's gonna play him with Jeff and Daredevil. They don't have those. It's tough to put yourself back sometimes. I totally get that. What did you have at 3?
3 was Silver Surfer, but number 2 is where this is the big disagreement for me. This is where I have She-Hulk because I feel like She-Hulk works so damn well. I think She-Hulk's an absolute banger card, especially since in Pool 2, you're going to have access to Armor, Sunspot, right? Like, you're going to have that, like, Infinite style gameplay. And even if you're not, like, if you don't have magic and you can't go, like, the turn 6 skip or whatever, you're often able to utilize that Sunspot energy to create value for a She-Hulk that you play on 4, 5, whatever it is in conjunction with other cards. So I do think that She-Hulk is a fantastic card. It's meta relevant right now to the 10th degree. It's crazy. Again, Triple M says hello, but I do think that She-Hulk is a very confident selection for Pool 3 players.
Yeah, it's a great card, man, for sure. And having you already know the Sunspot and Infinite combo so well coming out of Pool 2, so I great point there. I am going to hold my breath.
Same number 1.
Here's the thing. I haven't said my 2, and that means you've left off one of my 1 and 2s. And as always, I'm going to be taken back, good sir. I'm the one of these I'm going to take a breath for. Number 2 for me. Number 1's obvious. Number 2, it is Sarah. I hope to God. I don't know how you left either of these off your list. So I'm going to be interested. Sarah is Sarah. Sarah is so good, and having Sarah early just with Sentinel and having it with Angela and having it with Bishop, you don't need anything else. You have the Enchantress, the Shang-Chi. You have all these Pool 2 cards that work in harmony. Sarah will always be one of my favorite cards in Marvel Snap. It's one that I return to. You don't need Darkhawk. You don't need anything to make it work. In fact, if you go look at the basic list, you can look at one and filter out any Pool 4 and 5 card, and you still have top decks with her. Sarah's number 2.
Triple M scared me away. Straight up, I did not include Sarah on my list because I was scared of Triple M.
She-Hulk's the same thing. She-Hulk, you can't play She-Hulk down.
Very valid call. Very valid call. She-Hulk is in the same spot. I have no argument against you, Cozy. I have no argument. So, okay, Sarah was originally on my list. And I'm like, no, Mobius is going to absolutely just decimate these decks potentially. So that's what kind of cooled me off Sarah. Plus, I was like, Sarah plus Silver Surfer is the kind of combo. But you are right, especially with Sentinels and everything. Like, it is a absolute banger card.
So we can all agree, best card by far. You get this thing in your first 5 pulls. Congratulations. You have a deck for the rest of Marvel Snap. Alex, there's no way you didn't put it. Patriot, number 1.
The Patriot. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Patriot's the number 1 for sure. For sure.
Easily.
Yeah, Patriot's an absolute god tier card. And the thing I love about it is you already have all the cards anyway. In fact, there are probably so many new players out there that are like, why would I ever play Misty Knight when I can play Iceman? Like, you don't even know Patriot exists. And you're like, why does Misty Knight suck so bad? Why is the Thing suck so bad? I don't get it. Cyclops is terrible. And I totally understand why you feel that way, because they just don't make sense until Patriot. And then there's the extension of that. It doesn't makes even more sense when you start to get into High Evolutionary, which is a whole other conversation. But Patriot is an absolutely incredible card, and it works wonderfully with the Brood that Cozy had suggested as well. It just is this is the archetype that never goes away. It's never quite number 1. Actually, I shouldn't even say that. It's number 1 right now. What the heck am I even talking about? But like, it's never gone away. It's always been consistent. Even when it's not the absolute shining star, it's still consistently one of the best win rate decks in the game, always hovering well above mid 50 percentile range. It's just a god tier card.
This is the card that you just need one other baby to get it going, man. If you get Ultron, if you get Doctor Doom, or if you get Mystique, congratulations, you got the whole deck down. Any of those are going to work to build it. And then before that, you can just do Onslaught on Patriot, and you can still have this kind of crazy boost in power, man.
And with that, our top 10. Cozy, thank you so much for joining us today. It was an absolutely fantastic discussion. And if you have not seen Cozy's video yet, right linked in the middle is going to be Cozy's side of the Snapchat. Definitely go check it out. As always, guys, thank you so much for all of your support. It means the world to both Cozy and I. If you're new to Marvel Snap, welcome to this absolutely fantastic game and welcome to the Snapchat. We'll see you on next week's edition of the Snapchat.